Pardon?
Something?
If we'd like to start the conversation now, that's fine with me. Should we wait and let me just say a few more things? Okay. A second is, as our introducer said, that opportunities matter. And we've seen from some research in the U.S. That there are 3 stages of instruction for talent development. And this is Benjamin Bloom, and he did this work with 3 different domains. He did it with sports, with the arts, and with academics. And he said there were 3 types of teaching. The first type of teacher helps someone to fall in love. So falling in love with plant biology, falling in love with comparative psychology, falling in love with bridge building, whatever it is. The second type of teacher teaches the skills and the values of the domain. So what do I need to know in order to be part of this community? And then the third type of teacher, so these are sequential and developmental, is that you would learn how to be unique. So how to take what you want to do and contribute something unique to the world. Now, once again, a great contribution would be to see whether this is accurate in other places. So what are the 3 stages of instruction that would work, let's say, in India? Okay, got it. And the second thing that's very important is you can offer opportunities all you want, and we've done it, all of us have offered opportunities to at least a few people who said, I don't want it. And it's very sad. You see somebody who's very talented and they have no drive, or they don't want to work hard to take advantage of those opportunities. And others have the drive, but they don't have social skills, so they can't capitalize on those opportunities. And in psychology, we're discovering that you can change those behaviors. The third lesson that I learned from these studies is that talent development is not just getting from your high school science classes into the university, but it's in providing a path and introductions to the next level so that you can be successful beyond university into the career that you want. And at each stage, you need opportunity, you need effort, you need practice, you need study, and you need motivation. Finally, the meat of this as a psychologist is that psychosocial skills matter. They're not a substitute for hard work, but they're just as important. We all start off with different amounts of psychosocial skills, but we can be taught to improve. Let me give you some examples of psychosocial skills that are used by Olympic athletes and their coaches. This is a list that was collected from a research study of North American teenage Olympic athletes and their coaches. And these are the skills that the coaches teach their students on. It's called mental strength training. That you can be as physically gifted as, you could be the most physically gifted person in the world, but if you are threatened by your competitor or you freeze, you can't show it. And same with a chess player, same with a high-powered lawyer, and same with a scientist in some circumstances. So these skills are explicitly taught. I'd like to argue, and I'd like to hear what you have to think about the idea that elite athletes and musicians aren't the only ones who can use this psychological strength training. I'll give you a few examples, and then I'll summarize, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. So, one issue is persistence through good and bad times. Now, it makes sense when things are going badly, you don't get the scholarship, you don't get into the university you want, etc., that it's easy to give up. But it's also a problem when things go too well. What happens when things go too well? You can get lazy, you can get arrogant, and you can become blinded to opportunity. People don't take opportunities or appear motivated because secretly they don't believe they can do it, or they don't have the strategies they need to reach their goal, or tragically they're afraid of what their peers will think. So some of the greatest benefits from programs like the Jbnsts is that you have a chance to be around other kids who share your values and who care about science in a way that maybe some of the other students in your schools have not. I found that one of the most valuable tools for explaining some of these reactions that people who are very able and very knowledgeable in science and math, who are not operating at the level that we hope, is that they have a motivation issue called mindset. And I'd like to encourage you to look at this when you have a chance. It's by a psychologist named Carol Dweck, who's at Stanford University. And she says that it's pretty basic, that depending on your view of how you would explain intelligence, you can explain a lot of people's behavior. So if people believe that giftedness is who you are rather than what you do, or how you develop, you will often be afraid to put yourself in a situation where you will be challenged, because then it will look like you're not gifted. Right? So if you view that giftedness is something you develop, you could enjoy challenging things because you're developing yourself. But we have many problems in the U.S. of kids who will not do hard work because they believe that if you're gifted, you don't have to work hard. So if you have to work hard, you're not, the logic is, if you have to work hard, you're not gifted. So you say, oh, this is boring. I've done this already, etc. This is very bad because then you're not going to develop. Now, rather than saying you're either like that or you're not, she says there are techniques that teachers and parents can use to change mindsets. The most important is the use of praise. So it's very important for parents and teachers to praise students for strategies and for effort, but not for being smart. So you would never say to somebody, you're so smart. You would say, that was a great strategy for solving that problem. Or, I'm really glad you persisted with that. So you reinforce the idea of doing rather than being. The other strategy she suggests is to convey through dinner conversation or when you're riding in the car, talking about how life is about challenges. And that all of us face challenges, and we try to figure out ways to solve those problems. So that it's not the idea that, well, if you're smart, you don't have problems. We talked about persistence, and persistence through good and bad times. The idea is also helping young people to not be impulsive, to have long-term goals. And in Delhi, I showed these pictures, and I want to encourage you to look at it. It's very interesting. A study that was done in the late 1960s called the marshmallow experiment, where they gave young children like this, brought them in and said, here's a marshmallow. If you don't eat it for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to leave the room, I'm going to leave you with this marshmallow. If you don't eat it, I'm going to give you another one, so you'll have two. But if you eat it, that's all you get. So they have films of these kids, and some of them don't even wait for the woman or the man to leave, they gobble it up. And others of them are tortured, but they wait. And they may lick it, or smell it, or touch it, but they won't eat it. And so there was a follow-up 20 years later, and it showed a huge difference between those who could wait and those who couldn't. And those who could wait had better health, less involvement in the justice system, much higher academic outcomes and career outcomes. As in all psychological studies, these were replicated, and there were problems with the original study. But now we also know that you can teach people strategies when you're in a position like that where it's unbearable to wait. There are strategies you can learn to make it more bearable so that you don't indulge in being impulsive, because delayed gratification or impulse control is very important to success in the long term. Just briefly, these pictures are just kind of interesting that when you're talented, you can get an agent, and an agent can help promote you. Self-promotion is very important. Getting somebody else to promote you is even better. And so these are pictures of the same person, Sarah Chang, when she was 6 and a prodigy. And so she had this very good PR person that shows here a 6-year-old, very serious, in a 6-year-old outfit. And then here she is in her 20s as she's still a fabulous violinist. And so this is PR, how to promote yourself, keep it interesting. Psychologists focus a lot on addressing fears through coaching or teaching. This little boy, I think, is a great example of how even very polished performers can have stage fright. So talent development programs need to ask themselves some hard questions. The talent development programs, according to the framework I provided, was that they focus on special abilities, they offer opportunities, they expect children to take opportunities, especially when chance comes their way, and they are short-term and long-term, and they focus on psychosocial skills. So a talent development program that was being created would have to think about which domains they would serve and which ones they wouldn't. In my conversations at Jbnsts the other day, people talked about how they focus a lot more in India on theoretical work because you can do it in your head and you don't need elaborate equipment. So the domains of theoretical work in science and physical science and could be more developed. But what are some of the other domains? How do you choose which domains of science? They're all important. How do you choose which ones you're going to focus on? How do you assess talent in those areas? How are you going to identify a potential theoretical physicist? How are you going to identify a potential veterinarian? How are you going to identify a potential environmental scientist? Many children, if you recall the idea of falling in love, what do you do if there's no exposure to falling in love up until they're in high school? What if they've never had an opportunity to fall in love from a teacher or a parent in something in science? And how do you find the people, the coaches, to provide psychosocial skills? These are all challenges that I'm saying to you, but we have not solved them either in the U.S. So let me summarize the themes of the presentation. One is that giftedness is not entirely innate. It gets manifested in domains. Good psychosocial skills allow individuals to develop their gifts optimally. Psychosocial skills can be taught. So this young man over here was talking about the people who can sell their ideas are possibly more successful. And I did an interview with some mathematicians who have a stereotype of being socially unskilled. At least, where I am. Mathematicians are always the stereotype of being unable to communicate with others. And in my interviews with eminent mathematicians, they said, we cannot afford to be like that anymore. Even if it's our nature or whatever, we have to attract students. We have to attract people to our ideas, because otherwise everything is so specialized now that only 7 people in the world will understand what I'm saying. So if I want people to understand me, I have to be able to communicate, and I have to get out there and be social and make people want to listen to me. That's not natural, but it's a part of talent development, and it's a part of what we need to teach. What I want you to feel is excited that here are some new ideas that may explain why some people you know are not optimizing their talent, including yourself, and that you might like to look into this some more. And what you can do, I think, I talked about the talent development areas, but find some respected experts in domains to provide coaching for psychosocial skills. So I recommend strongly that if you have friends who are sports psychologists or music coaches, that you talk to them about how they train their talented pupils that they work with, and see if you can get some ideas, and maybe even have them come and talk to the students that you work with. And finally, help young people see the possible trajectories. Help them see their ways through the system up to where they might like to go. Not through coercion, but by invitation. So ability matters. India is world-renowned in so many domains. So much possibility here. Where will the focus be placed? It could be, I know there's a focus on STEM, but it could be in the arts, and it could be in philosophy just as easily in India. Psychosocial skills, if you're going to get out there and take risks being creative, they need support from adults. And to think long-term and short-term. I think this conference has been so inspiring. Just the conversations that people have been having, and I am inspired to go back and try to solve some of these problems in my own domain. So thank you very much, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I proposed to you.
Thank you, Rena. That was